For Aries rising and or moon sign for March 2023. Aries, your ruler Mars is about to finish up its long transit in Taurus. It's been in Taurus for many months now, since August 2022. And now that it's moving out, and by March 12th, it will move into Gemini, into your third host sign. Again, sidereal signs. This is a better place to put Mars. Mars in the second, and especially in Taurus, is not his favorite place to be. It gets stuck in the mud, and because it was also retrograde during this period, it's like being stuck in the mud moving backwards. It's just frustrating. So issues around family, finances in particular, anything like that, any kind of creative self-expression, also relationship dynamics, especially in the family, but any kind of relationship dynamics would have been impacted here. And your sense of hope moving forward, it could have got kind of ground down into a halt. Now that it's moving on in Gemini, even though Gemini and Mars don't get on either in a way, because the reason for that is Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is all about thinking things before doing anything, thinking about things and overthinking things before doing anything. And Mars is just about doing something and being proactive. So they don't really go hand in hand in one way, but in another way, again, Mars in the third host sign for you, Aries, is a much better place than the second sign, because Mars and the third sign sort of go hand in hand. Third is all about getting something you want, going for something, expressing yourself, being very clear about that. So in Gemini, in the third, this is a good time to be very clear about what you want and state that very clearly. Now, there is also other things going on, including all of the planets here are joining in Pisces. And especially by the new moon, if I show you that here on the 21st, we have the sun, moon, of course, we have Jupiter in Pisces until the end of April. We have Mercury move into Pisces also, and Neptune is here. So a lot of planets in your 12th sign. So while you're going for whatever you're going for in the third sign, and the third sign is very much about building your confidence as well and your ability to get what you want and go for whatever it is. The 12th sign is showing that there's some things to sacrifice here. And although every new moon in Pisces is your 12th sign, Aries, and this time of year, March, April, is an important time in understanding what do you need to actually let go of in getting anything you want. Because after this new moon, of course, the sun then moves into Aries, into your sign by mid-April. And so this period of March is always, every single year, a time to be really clear about what you need to let go of so that you can start a very personal new beginning for you by April. But this new moon on the 21st of March is an especially important new moon because it's the new moon in Pisces. It's a new lunar year. And this is a time to really think about what you need to let go of again, especially with Mars in your third, as you go forward and make plans moving forward. Now, the fact that all of these planets, including the new moon, are hemmed in between Saturn in your 11th host sign in Aquarius and Rahu and Uranus in your sign, Aries, there is this sort of hemming in effect going on. What does that mean? Well, basically, you might feel a bit of the stress about thinking about your financial situation, for example, or your ambitions and goals in life, and your need to promote yourself. And those stressors could be leading to this kind of something being squeezed. You might feel the pinch here. And what's being squeezed, of course, is your own creative self-expression in one way, and your own sense of happiness, and your own sense of purpose and meaning in life, and your own ability to get whatever you want. And again, you're having to negotiate this and to surrender or sacrifice something in whatever you're going for. And it's important here to be mindful of tuning out of all of that and maybe overindulging a fantasy, an idea about something that is possible now, and being very clear about what is possible and what isn't possible based on your financial situation, based on your ambitions and your goals in life. How realistic are they? Do you need to maybe think about how to approach this differently, how to, express yourself differently, to present even very differently, a very different part of you? This is all indicated by Saturn in the 11th and Rahu in the 1st, again, hemming in or squeezing all of these planets in the 12th. So Aries, it's an important time of year always, like I said, March into April, for you to really think about what it is that you need to let go of in order for you to move on and get very clear about who you are and who you are not, and to drop everything that you are not and what you're not about, and being able to really then really focus on who you are and who you're becoming even more so. So the fact that I want to mention just one last thing, Aries, and the fact that we have now an interesting formation beginning with Pluto moving through Capricorn, and it's going to move into an exact square to Rahu in your first sign. And this will happen more so over the summer months, but we're really feeling it already. And I'm sure, Aries, you're feeling it in a big way. And what does this mean? Well, basically, because this is your first sign in your 10th sign, with the North Node Rahu in your first, as well as your 7th sign, and therefore your 4th sign, all the 4 key pillars of your life being impacted by the nodes and Pluto, and this square between the nodes and Pluto, it shows that there's some really fundamental changes going on within yourself that you might not even be aware of, but they're happening anyway. Pluto and the nodes are hidden, so they're your subconscious, and so you're going through so many changes in very key areas of your life overall this whole year, and especially in the summer months, Aries. So it's important to be more mindful of this, I would say. 1st, 4th, 7th, 10th is yourself, your home, your relationships, and your work. And so all of these key areas are going through change. And so while you're thinking about that as well in the terms of the bigger picture, and thinking about your long-term goals and what you need to let go of to move on and get on with something that you want to achieve, you have to also acknowledge the way that you're changing how you do anything, how your relationships, your home life, and your work life are all changing during this period. So Aries, I hope that's been of help. As always, I wish you the very best for the month ahead, and until next time. For Taurus rising and or moon sign for March 2023, Taurus, Mars is about to complete its months-long transit through your sign since August of last year. And by the 12th of March, it will move signs into Gemini, your second whole sign, and really focus you on finances, family dynamics, values. And of course, this is a big shift in March, as well as the other key shift that's happening with the new moon and new lunar year on the 21st of March. There's some key things happening that are kicking in this year in 2023 in March. And so I'll look at the new moon in just a while, but first, just to mention this Mars, Mars is not happy in Taurus because it sort of gets stuck in the mud, and especially while retrograde, it feels like it's moving backwards while stuck in the mud. So you might have had to deal with some frustrations here, and there could have been relationship issues going on. Its aspect to your 4th and 7th house, as well as your 8th house, could show, there's some issues to deal with, more personal issues at home, relationships, and financial issues with the partner, perhaps, or with any other entity. 8th house is very much about working something out there financially. So there could have been some setbacks here, in other words. And now that it's moving on, finally, it's moving into Gemini in your second sign. I'll show you that here. At least things are moving on, and it will clear the shadow phase, that point at which it began to move back, by the 17th of March as well. So that's going to be a better indication also. In terms of you moving into new territory now, and you kind of planning around these financial things. So Mars in the second sign now, aspecting your 8th sign, is just better in terms of you working things out financially. But it is going to focus you on financial things, because not only is Mars in your second sign, but it's aspecting your 5th, your 8th, and your 9th. These are all financial areas of the chart. So thinking about that in particular. While this is happening, and I just want to go back because I've brought it forward to the 21st and the new moon, we have Venus move through its exaltation. So really, Venus in the beginning of March especially, and leading up to that exact exaltation, is going to be, and this is the exact exaltation here around the 9th, 10th. This is obviously good news for you, Taurus, because your ruling planet Venus exalted at its highest strength in your 11th sign of ambition. and social circle and friends and all of that is really positive. And it's conjunct Jupiter, and Neptune is also in the same sign, Pisces. All of that can be great. And maybe too great, maybe too much of a good time, too much enjoyment here. But it's still good to have your ruler exalted. So that's a very positive thing overall. The thing here is that, and especially for that new moon, if I show you now, Venus has moved out by the new moon. It moves into Aries, into your 12th sign. So there's this need to relinquish something, to let something go. And at this point, if I show you the new moon here on the 21st, we have the moon and the sun come together, of course. Jupiter is here. Mercury has also moved into Pisces, into your 11th sign. Neptune is here. They're all here in Pisces for this new lunar year on the 21st of March. So it's an important signature for the upcoming year for you. And the new moon in Pisces always is in your 11th sign. So Taurus is all about your bigger ambitions and your goals in life and what you want to achieve. And again, it's connected to friends and associations and groups and kind of social life in that sense, and bigger themes. The fact that all of these planets, though, are hemmed in between Saturn and Rahu, Saturn in your 10th whole sign, which is very much about your actions and work, and Rahu in your 12th sign about expense, and again, maybe letting go of something and perhaps sacrificing something. But maybe some stresses here around work and finances. Again, finances is indicated here because of Mars's transit. So something around work and finances and what you can and cannot do based on some financial situation is a key signature for the year ahead. Now, the fact that these two, Rahu and Saturn, are hemming in the new moon and all of these planets, including Jupiter in your 11th, shows that you might be feeling, in terms of your earning capabilities and your income, that there's something kind of a bit stuck here. So that's something to be mindful of, and it's important not to overdo it here in terms of spending. That's the continued transit of Rahu through your 12th house. But now that during this new moon, Venus, your ruler, conjoins Rahu by exact degree in your 12th house, hemming all of these planets in your 11th house, it's a big signature of needing to be very mindful of expense and earnings and expense, and trying to balance the books more, I would say. For the year ahead. So this is a big indication, not just for March, like I said, but for the new year, the new lunar year from this point onwards on the 21st. So thinking about finances and all of that is an important one. The other thing I want to mention is that now Venus has joined Rahu, and it's a signature that's moving on into the summer more so, and so it's going on for many months. Is this square between Pluto in Capricorn and the nodes in Aries and Libra. And because this is happening in these 3rd, 6th, 9th, and 12th houses, the 3rd is implicated because it's opposite Pluto and in a square to Rahu and Ketu. This 3rd, 6th, 9th, and 12th houses, what they have in common is that it's all about the past and past conditioning. And Pluto in the 9th alone, but especially with the nodes in the 12th and the 6th, is asking you to change your past conditioning. And it's a very hidden thing that's going on right now, because when Pluto engages with the nodes like this in a square, there can be conflict, but what's going on is a very sort of hidden change in terms of your past, changing what you believe to be possible, to be true even. And from that change, that really deep change that's going on, whether you're aware of it or not, there's a new possibility, a new potential that can be born out of this. So it's like just thinking about in terms of your belief systems and what you believe is possible as a phoenix rising from the flames, in essence. And thinking about that in March, I think will be, and moving on into the next few months, will be a really empowering experience for you, more so, Taurus. So I hope that has been helpful, because it's an important time of the year in March, and for you in terms of your bigger goals in life, your ambitions in life, to think about what it is that you need to let go of, to shed at this time, in order for you to see something more positive, more optimistic, more hopeful, and to plan for that. So Taurus, I wish you all the best for the month ahead, and until next time. For Gemini rising and or moon sign for March 2023, Gemini, there is a lot of activity going on in your 10th house. in March, and moving on from March 2023 with the new moon on March 21st. It's an important indicator for the year ahead, in fact. So it's not just what's happening in March that's important, but what happens in March has a big say in what's happening for the following year until April of 2024 and the next new moon in Pisces. So the fact that this is happening again in your 10th sign, host sign Pisces, sidereal sign Pisces, this is very much about your work life, your direction in life also. And the fact that Mercury is moving in here, and I'll show you this by the new moon itself on the 21st. Mercury moves in, conjoins Jupiter and the new moon here on the 21st. Neptune is here, a lot of planets here in the 10th house. And they're all hemmed in between Saturn in your 9th whole sign and Rahu in your 11th. So this is very much about earnings as well, but also on a deeper level, your sense of your belief in what is possible. What do you think is possible? 9th house Saturn is about asking you to let go of what you no longer believe in, that is no longer appropriate in terms of what is true for you now. 9th sign is very much about tradition and what was true for you and what you can build on. But it's about also letting go of what is no longer appropriate. So if you have any sort of beliefs that are holding you back, I think this transit of Saturn in the 9th is a very positive thing. If you're holding on to those beliefs and they're just not suitable at all in terms of what you are living now, then it can really bog you down. So I would say, obviously, let go of all of those. And while you do, you can see a bigger brighter future in terms of whether it's your career prospects or anything you want to do at all. The fact that Rahu is in your 11th sign, a very powerful place to put Rahu in any kind of group dynamics. You're working with people or even teaching people or being taught, in that kind of engagement with a group in any way. These are very positive things in terms of you seeing something that is more of a potential here again, but only by letting go of what you no longer serves you. Now, but the fact that all of these planets on the new moon on the 21st are hemmed in between these two, Saturn and Rahu, shows that you're really having to focus now on what you need to do right now. Because while the 9th sign be very much about your past and your past conditioning, and the 11th sign about the future and your hopes and dreams and ambitions for the future, what is stuck in between the middle of those is what you're meant to be doing right now, what you actually can only do right now. And everything is now, if you want to put it that way. So this new moon on the 21st in Pisces is a whole new beginning for you in terms of your direction in life, in terms of your career, and in terms of your hopes and dreams for the future. So think about that in terms of, your ability to focus instead of getting kind of stressed about, this and that, like, you got this thing you want to let go of and this thing you really want to achieve and all of these things. You're kind of maybe getting stressed around these things. And it's important to instead use them as a focal point for you to focus on what you can achieve right now. You could see here that Mars, by the 12th of March, it moves into Gemini. So after months long transit in Taurus in your 12th sign, that I potentially would have been frustrating for you because 12th sign and Mars don't go together at all. And especially when it's in Taurus. So there's a lot of negotiation that has to be, there's a lot of, getting stuck in the mud and not really moving things forward as quickly as you would like. But now that Mars is in your sign, Gemini, even though it might challenge you, it might push you out of your comfort zone even from mid-March. It is a better indicator in terms of you having more energy to do things. And again, especially around your ambitions in life and working with groups. There is some challenge to overcome, but once you overcome that challenge, great rewards here for you, Gemini. So that's the Mars. The last thing I want to point out is this ongoing signature now, which is really a key signature for the year, and especially in the summer months, this will be more prominent, is that Pluto is coming into a square to the nodes. So Pluto is in your 8th sign, and the nodes are in your 11th and your 5th sign. Rahu, the north node, is in your 11th, Ketu, the south node, in your 5th, and that then implicates the second sign, Cancer. So 2nd, 5th, 8th, and 11th, these are very much future orientated houses. And they have a lot to do with finances, but that's in a more basic way. In a more deeper way, it's all about values. It's all about how you want to express yourself and how you do that with other people, and especially within groups. And because the Pluto square the nodes is a very hidden dynamic, they're very much about things that are hidden. Pluto is very hidden. The nodes are shadows themselves. So it's all about these hidden aspects, your subconscious, your shadow self. There's a lot of change going on that you might not be aware of, but it is happening. And it is going to change the way you engage with other people. And whether that's friends, family, children, the in-laws, all of those are the people, but really they are just the expression, the outer expression of the deeper changes that are going on with yourself in terms of your own values, your own self-expression and creativity, your own sense of ambition, and your own ability as well to overcome bigger changes in life and unexpected hurdles in life, and to, to really transform that experience into a more positive experience, and to be able to see, that the challenge itself is the way forward, is what's going to give you that impetus to make some key changes in your life and to find that expression. And from that challenge, actually, you find that you have, your own unique values. You develop your own values from that. So that's a key indication going on for many months this year. And it will go on for some time. So just wanted to mention it now, Gemini, in March, because it's a key signature of the upcoming year as well. So I hope that's been of help, Gemini. As always, I wish you the very best for the month ahead. And until next time. For Cancer rising and or moon sign for March 2023. Cancer, the sun is moving through your 8th sign for the first couple of weeks, and then moving into your 9th host sign, Pisces, by the end of March. And we have a new moon in Pisces on the 21st of March. So this is an important new moon because it's not just a new moon, it's a new lunar year. So the signatures of this particular moment are relevant for a whole year, right up until the next new moon in Pisces in April of 2024. So it's an important month, March. There's a sense of new beginnings. And as always, the fact that it's a new moon in Pisces, which is the last sign of the zodiac, really this time of year, March, April time, is more about letting something go, finishing something up in order to start again afresh in Aries by the time the sun moves into Aries by mid-April. Remember, I'm using sidereal signs here. So these are the fixed stars, not the signs of the tropical zodiac. So Cancer, this has a lot to say about what you hope will happen moving forward in your life, based a lot, I'm sure, on what you perceive to be possible based on what has happened in the past. And I say all that because the 9th sign is all about the past and what you believe is possible. It's the past. It's like the tradition you were brought up in, the beliefs that you hold that have come from not just out of the blue, they come from somewhere. And this new moon in your 9th sign by the 21st of March is asking you to really look at that and to really focus on what it is that you believe to be true, to be possible, what you hope will happen based on what you believe is possible. So this is the new moon on the 21st. So let me just show you that, because there are quite a few key things going on before then, but I just want to show you this is the new moon on the 21st. So you have the sun and moon, of course, come together in Pisces. You have Jupiter in Pisces. Mercury has moved in also, and then Neptune is here. So all of these planets, a lot of focus on your 9th sign. And again, what is it you believe is possible? What gives your life meaning and purpose based on what you believe is possible, on what you believe is true? So truth has a really important part to play in this whole new moon and this whole period in March. But again, like I said, in the coming year. So for you, Cancer, thinking about what is true for you, the 9th sign is certainly a more subjective experience in terms of what is true for you, but you could be obviously more objective about it. But it is just generally a more subjective thing. It's your truth. Now, the fact that all of these planets are hemmed in between Saturn and Rahu, with Saturn in Aquarius in your 8th whole sign and Rahu in Aries, your 10th. This is very much about the work that you must do, the actions that you must take to overcome any challenges. And in a sense, the 10th house is all about the work you do for your sins, as it were. So when someone asks someone like, you know, why do you work here, or why do you work there, or where do you work? And someone might say, oh, I work here for my sins. That's very much an indication of the 8th and 10th houses. So the 8th house are all of those things that we have to overcome, the obstacles in life, the uncertainties, the insecurities, the otherness of life, the sense of just not knowing for sure. It's a very hidden part of the chart, and Saturn in the 8th can bring up things that are outside of your sort of conscious awareness, and things might feel more fated, like bigger life events might show that there's things that are outside of your control are seen fated in that way. That's Saturn in the 8th house. And the fact that it is aspecting Rahu in the 10th house, which is asking you to do something different, or just to do anything different, like just to approach things differently, is important, because those things that you do for your sins, as it were, are the things that you need to do to overcome those challenges, those blocks. So this is why, in other words, it's really important at this time and for the coming year to think about what you believe is possible and what you need to do differently to overcome those blocks. So that's really, in essence, what this new moon is about for you, Cancer. The other thing to say is that Mars is, after months and months and months in Taurus, getting stuck in the mud there in your 11th whole sign. Although, you know, very much about looking at your goals and ambitions in life, things got stuck. And not only that, they went backwards while being stuck, retrograde. But now Mars is moving on by the 12th of March. And by the 17th of March, it moves past the shadow phase and into new territory in Gemini. So there's this new sense of moving on and planning ahead. And it, of course, Mars is then therefore in a square to all these planets in Pisces in terms of what you believe is possible. And so Mars in the 12th is asking you to actually let go of what is no longer. And this can be a bit frustrating because Mars and the 12th house don't go hand in hand. And Mars and Gemini don't go hand in hand, because Gemini and its ruler Mercury are about thinking things through and maybe overthinking things. And Mars in Gemini is asking you to just kind of go for it. But because it's the 12th sign, you're not clear about how to go for it necessarily. You don't necessarily know how to plan ahead. And because Mercury at this time, for the new moon especially, is in Pisces, where it's all a bit overwhelming to kind of try and sort through all of this in your head, to try and get clear about what is true for you and what can you do. This could be potentially a frustration here, and it's important to be patient with yourself, especially throughout the end of March and into April. Until then, by May, Mars moves into Cancer, into your sign. So again, Mars in the 12th house is just not conducive to Mars qualities like gung-ho and just going ahead and, you know, taking action and just doing it and having a clear outcome from taking that action. It's 12th house, which is hidden. So you might do things that you just don't know why you did it, or you might end things that maybe, you know, you later regret ending, or you might shoot yourself in the foot and then you discover, oh, I shouldn't have really said that, or I shouldn't have done that. Thinking about Mars in the 12th in a more productive manner, thinking about getting clear about your own subconscious drives, your own saboteur, also the things that hold you back from doing what you need to do, and to get clear about that. So that's a more positive use of Mars in the 12th house. One last thing I want to mention, Cancer, for the month of March, but for many months coming now, is this configuration that's building in intensity throughout the summer, and that is when Pluto comes into a square to the nodes. So here we have the North Node Rahu in your 10th house, again asking you to do things differently. And then we have Ketu, the South Node, in your 4th house at home. And then we have Pluto in your 7th house of relationship. And by implication, then it pulls in your first sign, in your sign, whether it's your moon sign, Cancer, or rising sign. So all of the key areas of your life are going through change that is not obvious at all, possibly, but it is absolutely necessary. And that is when Pluto and the nodes square like this, it might feel like things are fated and outside of your control, but in fact, it's a deeper part of you that's in control of everything, you might say. And you might say that it's your subconscious. But Pluto and the nodes, which are not visible at all, are churning things up, are shaking things up on a whole deeper level. And in these key areas of your life, your first, your fourth, seventh, and 10th, your self, your home life, your relationships, and your work life are all going through a change right now. And it might not manifest as an obvious change outwardly right now, but it's going through changes very subtly initially that will eventually make those changes in the outer world. So it's kind of like you have to be, or you could be more involved with this in terms of just noticing where you feel the block, noticing where you might feel the change coming at this time. And in anything you're doing, again, in especially in relation to your home life, your relationships, and your career, these key points of your life, and noticing the blocks if they're coming up, and noticing them as blocks themselves that are coming up to be released. That's the best way to look at Pluto and the nodes. Is that yes, they're subconscious, they're shadows, they're blocks, but by seeing the blocks, you're actually almost exercising them. You're just seeing them as blocks that are coming up for you to release them. And that's probably a better way to deal with these changes that are going on a deeper level in your being, that then make changes in your world around you, in your relationships, your career, in your home life, in yourself. So, Cancer, I hope that's been of help. As always, I wish you the very best for the month ahead. And until next time. For Leo rising and or moon sign for March of 2023, Leo, your ruler, the sun is moving through your 7th whole sign, Aquarius, sidereal Aquarius, for the first couple of weeks of March. And then by mid-March, it moves into Pisces, your 8th whole sign. And then we have a new moon in Pisces on the 21st of March, where the sun and moon, your ruler, and Jupiter and Mercury and Neptune all conjoin in Pisces. On either side, then we have Saturn in Aquarius and Rahu, Uranus in Aries. So there's a big configuration forming, a big lineup here forming for the new moon in March, on the 21st of March, but it's also a new lunar year. So it's a really important new start and a signature really for the whole year to come. So it's an important time, March. There's definitely a sense of new beginnings. And as it is the case every March, April period where there's a new moon in Pisces, it's also about what needs to be let go of to start again. And by mid-April, the sun moves into Aries, into exaltation. This is a whole new beginning. But before you get there, Leo, you have to end something. You have to think about what it is that you wish for also when we think about the new moon in Pisces, and especially this year with Jupiter with the new moon in Pisces, thinking about what you hope for, what you wish for, what's more meaningful and purposeful, and to be open to something unexpected, I would say, Leo. For you, Leo, I would say more than anything, this kind of lineup suggests that there is some stressors going on in your life for sure, in terms of what you believe is possible and your relationships. And there have been some stressors in terms of your work life and your direction in life. These are shifting the goalposts, I would say. And it's important during this period, and especially leading up to the new moon on March 21st, that you stay open to the unexpected and expect something good to happen. Because although this configuration, and I'll show you it, this new moon, no point me just talking about it, I'll just show you here on the 21st, we have the sun and moon come together at 6 degrees. We have Jupiter here, Neptune, and we have Mercury all together here in Pisces, your 8th whole sign, which is something unexpected. Now, unexpected could be, again, as soon as you hear unexpected, you might think that's, I don't want something unexpected to happen. I want things to be the way they are. This is a tendency for Leo and all the fixed signs to want to keep things the same. But this is not suggesting that anything can remain the same. And you have to see that as a positive thing. Unexpected could be anything good. It could be a really unexpected news. The fact that it's Jupiter in the 8th sign could be even inheritance. This is one key thing about Jupiter in the 8th. Or it could be any kind of news coming that you didn't expect that's a benefit to you, or something, it could be something financial as well, for sure. The fact that Mars is moving into Gemini, also aspecting your 2nd sign, your 5th sign, and the 9th sign is as well, is where Rahu is, where Venus is joining it at this stage also. again, that says to me something financial, that there could be some unexpected financial developments here that are more positive. And again, unexpected. So stay open to the unexpected and think about it as a positive thing. Now, there are some stressors, like I mentioned. The Saturn in the 7th house is asking you to get really responsible in your relationship and to show up in all relationships, but especially more so your intimate partner. And of course, intimacy has a big say in this new moon as well, and the new lunar year, and being truly intimate. That's the 8th sign. It's not just about physical intimacy, which is also there in the 8th, but about emotional intimacy when you see a new moon in your 8th sign, and especially conjoined with Jupiter and Neptune and Mercury here. So this is an important indication for being really clear about, you know, these things, and maybe getting clear about it by being able to focus, and maybe not having an option, but to focus on these issues, whether it's the financial part of it or the more intimacy part of it. There's a need to focus here because all these planets in your 8th sign are hemmed in between Saturn and Rahu. So in a way, it's getting you to focus. Like maybe there's a relationship issue that's getting you to focus, or there's a sense of changing your belief systems around something, changing what you believe is possible with Rahu, and that then creating this kind of ability to really see things differently, to hope for something else. Again, that's why I'm saying, Leo, it's a good time to be really open to something new and to think about the unexpected as a positive thing, unexpected good news coming your way. The last thing I want to mention is that there is this configuration building now for the next few months and coming to exact in the summer, but it's going to kind of drag on throughout the whole summer. And that is Pluto is coming into a square to the nodes in Aries and Libra. So Pluto in your 6th sign, squaring the nodes in your 3rd and 9th signs, and then drawing in the 12th sign as a result of that in all these squares. The 3rd, the 6th, the 9th, and 12th are very much about the past. And so with Pluto and the nodes in a square and these hidden dynamics, Pluto not being at all visible, the nodes themselves being shadowy, all of these hidden dynamics in houses that suggest that there are some past dynamics that need to be changed, and that they are being changed very slowly and maybe not consciously, but through this change that's happening subconsciously, there's some key changes that are going on in your life and what you believe is possible. So in terms of changing your approach to work and how you communicate and what you believe is possible, you might not see outer expressions of this in any obvious way, but there could be some very obvious inner expressions of this if you're very intuitive or very contemplative and very internal about these things. So ultimately, though, they are going to make changes after this year in terms of what you believe is possible, what you believe to be true even. So again, that's why I'm saying, Leo, if you could just stay open-minded about what is possible right now, and then be open to be pleasantly surprised with either your relationship dynamics or your financial setup or whatever it might be. Just stay open, Leo, is what I would say. So I hope that's been of help. As always, I wish you the very best for the month ahead, and until next time. For Virgo rising and or moon sign for March of 2023, Virgo, your ruler Mercury is about to slip into Pisces, into the depths of Pisces, and leading up to the new moon on March 21st, an important signature for the year ahead. So not just for this new moon in March, which is a new beginning, it's a new year. So whatever happens around this time on March 21st is important for the whole year ahead. And I'm going to show you that now and the key signatures of that. But I just wanted to point out that before we see that, we see a couple of key shifts that are going on, and that is Mars especially is moving by the 12th of March into Gemini, into your 10th whole sign. So if I show you that here, Mars in your 10th sign, aspecting your sign by 4th house aspect, aspecting your 4th sign and your 5th sign. It's very much about changes that are happening now in your work and home life and what you are looking at into the future. And there are some deeper, more long-standing changes that are going on within your planning your future based on unexpected changes that are happening right now that I'll show you that are key here in terms of the nodes lining up with Pluto, because Pluto is in your 5th sign of the future, planning your future, in a square to the nodes in your 2nd and 8th sign. And unexpected changes that are happening here, again, especially because of Rahu in your 8th sign. And now Mars moving into your 10th sign, showing that there's some changes afoot. So being open to these changes that are happening internally within you as well, some subconscious changes deeper within yourself, may be happening in the world outside you, around you, in more obvious ways, but maybe not. But initially, certainly happening within you. And changes in what you are doing, especially moving forward, and what you're going to plan to do. And here I'll show you by the 16th as well. You can see that Mercury has moved into Pisces. So this happens, every year. It's not a big deal. And certainly this year, it's not a big deal at all, because Mercury, even though it's said to be in its debilitation in Pisces, it's kind of out of its depth here. It's sort of confused and unable to grasp and fathom the depths of Pisces. In this case, because Jupiter is in Pisces, it is a mitigating factor. So there is definitely a sense of being propped up here and a sense of hope, despite Mercury in Pisces, sort of being lost at sea, as it were, not being really clear about anything right now. So on the one hand, though, you see both are true. On the one hand, you might feel a bit lost right now from the mid-March. But on the other hand, there's this deeper sense of awareness and intuitive nudge, I would say, that you're having here. And of course, all of this can play out very obviously or more obviously in your relationships, because all of this is happening in your 7th sign. So if I bring it forward to the new moon itself on the 21st, you see here the sun and moon come together, 6 degrees of Pisces, Mercury's here, not far away, Jupiter is still here, Neptune has just moved in here again. All of these planets are gathering now in your 7th sign and focusing a lot on relationship. So, and on relating in general, how you're relating. And because all of these planets are hemmed in, as it were, between Saturn on the one side and Rahu on the other, there's some stressors here that you're having to deal with in your relationship. And at the same time, you could look at it as a focal point, as an ability to focus on your relationship or your partner or on any other, because of some stressors that are happening in your life. Now, 6th house Saturn, although the best place, according to some astrologers, to put Saturn, it's still creating the stressor. So initially what Saturn does is it moves into an area, a new house now, a new part of your life, Virgo. It gets you to look at that. And you might not want to look at it, but you do have to look at it, because Saturn initially can create a change, and then having to change your routines, especially. This is what 6th sign is all about. 6th sign is work routines and health regimes. And so how does your life work and your day-to-day life? And if it doesn't work, you have to rework it. And this is what Saturn in the 6th house is asking you. So that can put a stressor on, because you're having to change how your day-to-day life goes. At the same time, and it's aspecting Rahu in Aries in your 8th sign, asking you to be open to unexpected changes. And it's conjoined also Uranus, which is even more unexpected, comes out of the blue, and it kind of can shake your world. Now, the fact that this is happening as well, and they're both either side of your 7th house, it can impact your relationships, and you might not be very clear about how to move forward here with this relationship or with a relationship or any relationship. So this is a stress. These are stressors, like I said. So there could be some changes going on in your work life and day-to-day life, and things that are happening that are unexpected, and that then forces some changes in your relationship. But ultimately, apart from all of that, this new moon and Jupiter with this new moon, there are some positive indications here for relationship at this time and for the year ahead. While all of that's happening, of course, Mars, which rules Aries, is moving forward into your 10th sign. So this is where, for the next few weeks now, at least things are starting to move forward. At least things you can start to plan ahead. And just be mindful, though, that Mars, although, likes to be in the 10th house and taking action, it's the house of action, and Mars is all about being proactive. It's the sign Gemini, so it's all about thinking about things. And so you're having to negotiate this sort of thinking about things and maybe overthinking things and not doing enough, or wanting to do more than you can do, or whatever it might be. Mars and Gemini can be a bit frustrated in a way. And it can lead to a very sort of frenetic sort of energy where you feel like you're kind of like spinning your wheels and you're not moving anywhere very quickly. But in terms of planning ahead, this is a great time to do that. I would use this Mars in Gemini in the 10th Virgo to plan your life, to plan ahead the actions that you're going to be taking, to plan your career, your next steps in your career, and so on. And to be open to, negotiating with other people and to changing up your routine. Now that Mars and Saturn are in a trinal relationship, in a friendlier cooperative relationship, I certainly think that changing your routine and your work regimes and health regimes are possible. The last thing I want to say is that Pluto coming into this square to the nodes. So we have the nodes in your second and eighth signs and Pluto in your fifth sign. It's changing what you believe is possible in the future anyway, and changing your plans on a whole deeper level, on a very subconscious level. Pluto is not seen, it's subconscious. The nodes are shadowy. They are your shadows. So there are some changes that are going on here in, fundamentally what will then pan out in your future in more obvious ways, but it has to happen within you first. There are deeper changes happening in yourself first, subconsciously, in terms of what you are doing and what you are planning for the future. So this is a time to really get on board with that, because from March and after this especially, they start lining up more exactly in a square. And squares can generally feel conflicted, where there are these plans you want to make, but then there are these other financial things that you have to deal with, or unexpected changes, or unexpected financial issues that you have to deal with, while you also want to make these changes and make these plans for the future. So there's this deeper hidden conflict that's arising now and will build into the summer of 2023 because of the exact square between Pluto in the fifth and the nodes in the second and eighth. So get on board with it now, I would say, Virgo, so that you can start to see the hidden dynamics and your involvement in that in your subconscious, and be more open to that. And then it won't feel as frustrating or as uncertain. And it won't all be out there, stuff happening out there, unexpected events in the world around you. It'll also be, reflected in your inner changes that are going on. And to think about it as with Pluto always is like the archetype or the image is like the phoenix rising from the flames. So this, whatever new comes out of this now, it's a process. It's a slow process, of course, but it's a process. I hope that's been of help, Virgo. As always, I wish you the very best for this new month ahead and this new lunar year. And until next time. For Libra rising and or moon sign for March 2023. So Libra, Venus, your ruler, is moving towards its exaltation by the 9th of March. So this is obviously a very powerful time for you in one way, but also a very uncertain time in many other ways, because Ketu, the south node, continues to transit through your sign. This is in many ways unearthing something, removing something, revealing something. And while we look at Pisces, although in exaltation and giving you the strength to be able to deal with any issues, any obstacles during this process, this long process of Ketu moving through your sign now for many months, we can see some strength here. You definitely have some strength available and more optimism and hope going on with Venus exalted and Jupiter combined with Venus and Neptune and all of that. And the new moon here happening on the 21st of March in Pisces, together with your Jupiter and Venus at that stage will have moved into Aries, into your seventh sign. And the seventh house sign, of course, is all about relationship. It will conjoin Rahu, the north node, by exact degree at that time. So let me just show you that instead of just talking about it. You can see it here. So this is the 21st. You'll see here that Venus, having gone through its exaltation through the beginning of March, by the middle of March, then it moves into Aries. And then by the new moon on the 21st of March, it exactly conjoins Rahu. So this is a very interesting configuration here, and key changes that are happening within you, not just in March and the new moon, but for the following year, because a new moon in Pisces is a new lunar year in the Vedic calendar. So it has an indication, all the signatures that are combined at this time have a big imprint on the year ahead. So it's a big deal. So this new moon in Pisces, and a new moon in Pisces every year is always your sixth whole sign, Libra. So this is about how your life works day to day. How do you bring all of those bigger ideas and ideals and inspirations down to earth in a very practical day-to-day manner? How does your life work day to day? And what doesn't work? Because Pisces is as much about giving things up and changing things, ending things in order for you to start again, start afresh by the time planets then move into Aries. And this is the key signature of March into April also. While all of these planets gather in Pisces, moving into Aries, it's about what do you have to overcome here? What obstacle, what challenge has to be overcome in order for you to move on and to make some new, fresh starts in April. And as the planets move into Aries in April, this is very much about fresh starts in terms of your relationship, in terms of your engagement with the world in general, and that impact that it has on you very personally in your personal life. Because while all of this is happening, we have the nodes continue to move through your first and seventh sign in how you interact with other people, and then Pluto coming into a square to those nodes in your fourth sign, which is very much about your home life and your happiness. So very private life. So there are key changes going on in March and leading into the next year, and especially in the next few months over the summer months with Pluto in a square to the nodes. Libra, this is very much about you making some really deep inner changes and shifting things around in a very deep way, in a very subconscious way. You might not be consciously doing any of this, but it's happening. There are deep conscious or unconscious changes that are going on that will eventually create changes in your relationship, in your home life, moving forward, and even in your career, because it implicate then your 10th house opposite Pluto when you have all of the others triggered. So the first is yourself, the fourth your home, seventh your relationship, and then the 10th, the fourth pillar of your chart is your career. So all of these are going through some changes that are not necessarily obvious right now, and into the summer won't be, but they are changes, fundamental key changes that are happening on deeper aspects, and that will eventually make changes out there in the world. But coming back to this new moon on the 21st, with all these planets now having gathered in your sixth house, again, how do you bring that more meaningful, purposeful, maybe even mystical expression and all of that kind of wonder and inspiration down to earth in your everyday life? How do you make it work for you? And this new moon is asking you, how do you do that? And then there might be some stressors going on here. You might be having to, focus on this, and especially now where you're having to make plans with another, maybe, because as all of these planets gather in your sixth sign, we have Saturn on one side in your fifth whole sign, and Rahu, the north node, as well as Uranus combined with your ruler Venus in your seventh sign. So Saturn aspects your seventh sign from the fifth sign. So it's asking you about planning something with your partner. And while you're doing that and being open to changes that are happening in your relationship, this new moon in Pisces is asking you to think about your work life, your day-to-day life as well, your routines, while you're making these plans. And maybe the plans themselves are getting you to focus on that, on how is your life working and how is it not working and how can it work better? And how is your life working in terms of giving you more meaning and purpose in life? So all of these are indicated for this new moon, and not just this new moon in March, but for the whole year ahead until the next new moon in Pisces, which won't happen until April 2024. So it's a big deal in March. This is definitely the sense of new beginning here. Now, also, just to add that Mars is moving signs by the 12th of March. It's been in Taurus, your eighth whole sign, for many months now. It was retrograde for the last part of 2024 into the mid-January this year. That was frustrating as hell, I'm sure. It's your seventh lord, so it's about relationship, and it's about intimacy within your relationship, and it's about negotiating some things with your partner in terms of your values, what you come together and agree on. It's all about in-laws as well, about their family, their values, their money, also their finances, their resources, thinking about these kind of more complex issues and intimacy issues in the 8th sign, but then moving it on into the 9th sign and travel and study being indicated in the 9th. So maybe traveling with your partner, maybe opening your mind up to some other possibility with your partner, even if you don't travel, to think about things in a more hopeful way. And especially because this is happening around this new moon and all of the things that are going on in terms of the changes that are happening within your own personal life and in your relationships. This Mars in the 9th house now can be a great time for you to start planning ahead in different ways in March. So again, Mars moves on the 12th of March. By the 17th of March, it moves past its shadow, as it were. So it's past the point it began to move backwards. So things are starting to move forward, and you can start to make plans moving forward by the end of March. So that's another key shift that's going on. Libra, I hope that's been of help. As always, I wish you the very best for the month ahead. And until next time. For Scorpio rising and or moon sign for March 2023. Scorpio, your ruler Mars, is about to finish its months-long transit in Taurus. It's been in Taurus since August 22. And this has been frustrating as hell, I'm sure, because Mars does not like to be in Taurus and in the 7th sign Taurus for sure. So it doesn't mean that you didn't handle it well like a pro. And it doesn't mean that you didn't enjoy some aspects of it, because it can bring a lot of passion and enjoyment too. But because it went retrograde while in Taurus, it's like being stuck in the mud and then having to reverse out of it. And so feeling like things aren't moving ahead, feeling frustrated, maybe having to negotiate more than you want to, having to do what the other person wants more than you want to do it. That's Mars in the 7th sign Taurus. So the fact that this is moving on now, it means that you can move forward with your own plans. Now, there are some further complications there because it's moving into the 8th sign. We'll talk about that in a minute. But at least Mars is moving on. And by the 17th of March, it moves past its shadow phase into new territory in Gemini, and sort of moving into new territory itself for Mars is better than going back over old territory again and again, like it has been in the last few months. So, and also the fact that Gemini is just a lot more, in one way, frenetic, but it's just more like movement orientated. Taurus is like a stuck energy for Mars, and it doesn't like it. So for you, at least, things can start to move forward in March. But there's so much else going on in March, so many new beginnings in many ways, but endings that lead to new beginnings more than anything in March, because by then, April, planets start to file into Aries, and there's this sense of new beginnings more so in April. In March, as is the case every year, there's this Piscean quality about it. So it's this kind of like being open to something new, but in also letting it go, allowing something more, and recognizing what needs to be finished up in order for you to start anew in Aries. So that's the key signature also of April this year, because we have a new moon on the 21st. So let me show you that first of all. The 21st here is the new moon in Pisces. So let me bring it forward. I'll put it to the 22nd. But anyway, it is the 21st, because this is very early hours, just to leave it with Scorpio rising. So it's 6 degrees of Pisces, the new moon. Mercury is quite close to the new moon, and Jupiter is still here in Pisces until the end of April. And Neptune is also just moved in here. So we've got a lot of planets, a lot of focus, therefore, on your 5th sign. Now, the new moon in Pisces for you, Scorpio, is always in your 5th sign. So April, May, every year, there's this new sense of planning ahead. And so again, it's this sense of what is possible, what is new. It's not quite clear as yet what it is that's going to be, because that's what Pisces is all about. It's about being open to what it could be, and being open to possibility and to opportunity. And because Jupiter is also co-present, this leads to even more of this sense of being open to potential possibility, opportunity here. And so the fact that this is your 5th sign is very much about planning the future. Now, the thing is that all of these planets are hemmed in between Saturn in your 4th sign, Aquarius, and Rahu in your 6th sign, Aries, which also rules Aquarius. So Saturn and Aquarius and Rahu here in Aries are having a big say in how you're planning anything. So it's important to be mindful of the squeeze that can happen here. So with Saturn in the 4th sign, there's some squeeze going on in your home life. And Rahu, the other ruler of your fourth sign, is in your sixth sign. So there could be something that you're having to overcome, some challenge in terms of your home life and your personal life and your relationship with your people at home, especially your mother relationship, but any kind of home situation dynamic, any challenge that needs to be overcome at this time. That's the squeeze that's on, but it's also, you could say, the focus. So you could look at this as a focus and to map out something more hopeful, more optimistic with this new moon in Pisces with Jupiter. And though the details might be really sketchy right now because Mercury in Pisces is not clear at all on the details, it's at least a more hopeful situation, even if it's a stressor that brings it about, even if it's like you can't go forward now and you can't go back. And so you're here now. So why don't you just focus on what is potential here, what is possible? And this could, of course, have implications in terms of not just your future plans, but around your family life and your financial life. Any plans around starting anything new, around if you were planning on having children, for example, or any kind of future endeavors, this is really getting you to focus, in other words. And even though, again, it felt like a stressor, or I can't, do this anymore, that's finished. And also, I don't know what this is going to be. That itself can be a stressor. It could also be, like I said, a focus, getting you to focus on what is possible right now. And though you might not be clear, that you can be open to the potentials here, because there are lots of positive things about this new moon for sure. Venus is exactly conjunct the North Node Rahu while this is happening. So Venus itself is showing that in terms of relationships for you, Scorpio, though Mars has moved on from your seventh house, Venus conjoined Rahu, and that signature being a big part of the year ahead shows that you're having to overcome some challenge, and your relationship has to overcome that challenge too. And therefore, your partner also has to overcome some challenge here. And you might have to go with your partner hand in hand through that process to overcome some sort of issue. So it could be a health issue as well that they're going through, that you're helping them through, that they're having to overcome their own, even just their own weaknesses. That's what the sixth sign is all about. It's the things that we do ourselves that create problems, like diet, like eating the wrong foods, like doing the wrong things, not exercising enough, and all of these things are sixth house. So the fact that it's Venus conjoined the North Node, it's like you're helping your partner through this, that maybe they're going through some changes in their own regulation. They're trying to, regulate their own system, their own diet, their own exercise regimes. So that's something to be mindful of for the year ahead as well. Now, I mentioned Mars. It's going into Gemini by the 12th of April, and by the 17th, it moves past the point it moved backwards. So things are moving on. Mars in Gemini is at least moving on, but it's still a bit tricky for Mars to be in Gemini in the eighth whole sign for you, because it really brings in financial issues more so. Whereas seventh sign was more about, thinking about what your partner wanted perhaps and having to negotiate with them or any other in any instance, and maybe being frustrated yourself personally. This is about you having to negotiate joint resources, values, literally finances, joint finances with your partner. And you might have to work these things out now for the next few weeks. So be mindful of that and plan ahead around these things. Be open to the unexpected, maybe be even open to unexpected good news around financial considerations, money coming from your partner, for example, something like that. Don't just see it as unexpected news as being bad news. It could be very good news, but you have to be open to it, because Mercury during this period is, in Pisces, is not very clear about the details as yet, especially. By the end of March, though, there's a more positive indication if I show you that here, and that by the 31st of March, Mercury moves into Aries. So we've got an interesting dynamic that I'll talk about in April more so, where Mercury and Mars are exchanging signs. And for you, Scorpio, this is the sixth and eighth signs. So there's definitely an ability to negotiate here and to actually come out on top. Because when you have these two, 6 and 8 exchange, this is like a double negative, and ultimately it leads to a positive. There's one last thing I want to point out, and that is a key, not so obvious consideration for the next many months, in fact, because Pluto is coming into a square to the nodes. So we have Rahu in the sixth sign in your chart and Ketu, your other ruler, in the 12th, with Pluto coming into a square to those in the third. So there's some hidden dynamics going on here in terms of you having to overcome some issue, some challenge, and how you can communicate something different and believe something else. Think about things differently. So Pluto in the third is not obvious at all. It's hidden. It's your subconscious. And the north and south nodes are your shadows in your 6th and 12th. So there's something that you have to overcome now, some challenge, some routine that maybe isn't working anymore, some daily routine that you need to focus on differently and shaking it up somewhat while letting go of all of the details of all of the problems of your life and overcoming those by not avoiding them, but by transcending them, by dealing with them and then moving beyond them. And while you're doing that, you can communicate something differently and be more confident by approaching it differently and not avoiding it, but not also getting stuck on it. And this is what's indicated by these in the 3rd, 6th, and 12th houses, also implicating your 9th house, which are basically all the quote unquote the past houses. 3rd, 6th, 9th, and 12th are all about the past conditioning. So your past conditioning, obviously, therefore, is going through some fundamental changes at this time in the summer of 2023, especially. And I wanted to highlight it now because we're all going through this in our own individual way, of course. But for you, Scorpio, you're going through this key changes in how your life works on a day-to-day level and what you believe is possible and what you need to let go of that is no longer relevant even, and certainly no longer appropriate into what's in terms of what's happening right now. And so this is not an obvious thing, like I said, for sure. It's an unclear shift that's happening within you, but it will become more clear as the months progress and as the years progress, in fact. So, Scorpio, I hope that's been of help. As always, I wish you the very best for the month ahead. And until next time. For Sagittarius rising and or moon sign for March 2023. Sagittarius, your ruler Jupiter is in Pisces. It's the last whole month of Jupiter in Pisces. By the end of April, it will move on into Aries. So that's a key shift next month. But in March, and for the new moon in March, which is on the 21st of March, this is an important time of transition, of change, of endings and new beginnings. Endings is in Pisces, new beginnings is in Aries. Endings in terms of your 4th house, and which is all about your home life, and new beginnings in terms of planning the future, which is your 5th house. 5th house can also obviously incorporate then children because they are your future. But even if you don't have children, it's about planning ahead. So this is an important time, obviously, for you, Sagittarius, in terms of looking ahead. But again, looking ahead in terms of what needs to be changed in the present and even in terms of the past, in terms of past conditioning. And I'll show you how this is all panning out. So first of all, let me show you how the new moon pans out. It's on the 21st. It's at 6 degrees of Pisces. I can't change this here, but the moon moves in here. If I change it, your rising sign will change. So just imagine the moon is in here on the 21st, late on the 21st, GMT, 6 degrees of Pisces with Mercury not too far away and Jupiter still in Pisces and Neptune having moved into Pisces. So a lot of planets. Let me bring it the day after. You can see them all here. So this is the 22nd, but it happens again like late on the 21st or earlier, depending on where you are, on the 21st of March. It's an important new moon because it's a new lunar year. So the things that are happening here are going to be a signature for the whole year ahead. So this is an important consideration. Now, what's happening is that all the planets are gathering in Pisces in your 4th house and home, and in your personal life, you're really reflecting on that now and what makes you happy. And while that is happening, all of them gather in between Rahu and Saturn. So Saturn is on one side in your whole sign, Aquarius, 3rd sign, asking you to look at your past conditioning and how you have to change that, because Saturn generally changes things. Even though the change happens internally as much as it does externally, oftentimes, obviously, we look at the changes that are happening externally and thinking about that more than the change that's happening internally. But certainly Saturn in the 3rd is asking you to change how you communicate, how you engage, whether it's with anyone else, but more specifically your neighbors and your siblings, and also thinking about the relationships with those people in your life in the past, because again, 3rd house is the past. how that has shaped the way you think, and the way you communicate right now. And how you can change that is obviously looking at it, first of all, what needs to change, what is the block there. Saturn is said to bring the block because the block itself is then highlighted so you can see it for what it is and then remove it. That's why Saturn is also said to do really well in the third house and as well as the sixth house, because these are what are called upachaya houses. It does well in the 11th as well. And these upachaya houses are areas of growth, of improvement. And Saturn gets better with time. We all get better with time. Saturn at the third shows that you're going to get better at communicating with time. And so in the next couple of years, especially, you're going to get better at getting what you want, at asking for what you want, at getting clear about what you want and expressing what you want, and realizing that getting what you want is as much about what the other person wants and how you need to also listen to what the other person wants to get what you want. Saturn in the third is not about just gung-ho, just grab what you want and run. It obviously is not going to work like that with Saturn. You have to be very clear about this back and forth that needs to happen with Saturn. While that's happening, it aspects the fifth sign. And so it's about also what you want. And it's going to get you to really focus on what you want. That's why Saturn in the third is very much about what you want, because it's in the third, but it's aspecting the fifth. And the fifth is very much what is dear to you, what you would love in your life. And Rahu here is shaking it up right now. And it's really getting you to focus, maybe even obsess about the things that you would love to have in your life moving forward. The issue here is that, again, it's this, unlike the third house, which is like your past, the fifth is your future. And so you're getting to now having to focus on your past conditioning and the way you communicate with yourself, the voice that goes on in your head, and how that's having an impact on your future plans, which is the fifth. But Rahu and the fifth, in a way, if there's anything they have in common, it's the future, and it's planning the future. The issue here is that it always seems to be in the future. It's like you're always thinking about the future with Rahu. And so obsessing about something that you want in the future is not in the present. And that's why, coming back to the point I started with, is that this new moon in Pisces in the fourth, in your home, in your state of happiness and state of just being at home, and that is the present. That is where you need to slip between the gap between this past and future. And this past and future Saturn Rahu can bring the squeeze, bring the need to focus, bring the stressor, in fact. But you could also just look at it as a focal point. A focal point so that you can actually focus on what you can do right now in terms of what you can connect with that makes you happy, that makes you feel like you're doing something that's meaningful and purposeful, that you can really connect with your heart. And the fourth house, more than anything, shows that. What Kishori talks about in our podcast, the heart field. So it's not the actual physical heart, but it's the center of the chest and the heart field, which really taps into, really on a deeper level, anything that you want to make happen. You know, it's all orchestrated there, if you will. And the fact that this is the sign Pisces shows that anything is possible. But unless and until you actually focus on that and the stillness in your own being, then there's a lot of noise that can go on here when you're considering this and that. Like, do I believe this, or what's possible, or all of that, you know, and what's this voice that's going on in my head here telling me that I can't do what I want, or this thing here that I'm planning all of this and it's always in the future. Slipping between the gap, therefore, means actually slipping into that stillness within yourself, because that's where it's all happening anyway. So that's an important thing to think about for this new moon on the 21st and for the year ahead, to make your plans and to focus on how you're communicating what you want, but also to kind of feel that stillness within yourself and that happiness that can come from within. It's not a happiness that's you know, demanding anything in the outside world. It's an inner joy that can be cultivated when you're still with yourself. So that's a key consideration. The other thing that's happening is that Mars is moving after many, many months of being in Taurus into your seventh sign. So from your sixth to your seventh. Now, although Mars can do really well in the sixth, it was getting stuck in the mud here because it's in Taurus. It doesn't like to be in Taurus, and it was retrograde. So it got even more frustrated. And so there might have been some challenge that you've had to deal with over the last few months that can move on now. And by the 17th of March, it will pass the point at which it began to move backwards. So Mars moving forwards now in Gemini in your relationships can be, you know, asking you to move forward and get out of your comfort zone and to communicate something that might not be comfortable. And it's going to give you the energy for that, though, because it's looking back at your sign. And the fact that it's also going to aspect, therefore, your second sign, which I'll talk about now in a minute, is obviously showing that you need to speak up to say something that needs to be said, right? So it's not necessarily going to be an easy transit for you, but it's going to be a necessary engagement with your partner or any other in speaking about what you want. So that's the last point I'll make, because this is a key signature that I'll talk more about in the months to come. But basically, this is forming now and it will form more tightly into the summer, but will last all summer. And that is Pluto in a square to the nodes. So you have the North Node, Rahu in Aries, and the South Node Ketu in Libra, and Pluto coming into a square to those in Capricorn. So these are your second, fifth, and 11th signs. And then by implication, it's pulling in on the 8th sign. These are all the future signs, the future houses. So Pluto in your second sign is about communicating your truth, but it's more likely going to bring up blocks there and not conscious either. So it's very subconscious, Pluto. And so they kind of the saboteur, you know, that coming into a square to the nose in your 5th and 11th in terms of what you want, and, you know, overcoming the blocks or any kind of not being clear about what you want with the shadow planets, the nodes, that can be conflicted in one way, because again, it's like they're not visible. You don't know what's going on necessarily. It's all unconscious, it's all subconscious, and yet it's happening. The changes is happening. And in a square especially, there's some change happening here, key fundamental changes that are happening in terms of your future plans. So making sure that you're at least aware that this is happening in the summer, so that you can not just look at the events that are happening in your life around you and actually see that it's you on some level, on a much deeper level, that's orchestrating all of this change. Because it's ultimately a change in how you can see the future and how you envision the future for yourself. And in order for you to do that, you need to overcome some blocks here. So Sagittarius, I hope that's been of help. As always, I wish you the very best for the month ahead. And until next time. For Capricorn rising and or moon sign for March 2023, Capricorn, Saturn is now settled into your second whole sign, Aquarius. Sidereal Aquarius is where we see your family dynamics, your finances, your values, and it's really getting you to focus on those as the sun moves through there for the first couple of weeks of March also, and really getting you to focus on your joint values, because the sun represents other people's values, your partners, family, and wealth also, or any other wealth that comes to you that is unearned by you. The fact that they were together, and the fact therefore that Saturn, your ruler, is combust into the beginning of March, is an indication that there might not be a clarity around these things unless you look within for these self-worth and value issues. More so, that's what that's reflecting. But if you try and sort it out in the world outside or out there, it might not be clear about how to move forward in relation to these, I would imagine, tricky dynamics, because Saturn Sun combinations can feel a bit like, you know, there's a conflict going on between you and your partner, your family versus your partner's family, your values versus your partner's values, or any kind of value issue. And even potentially an identity issue, because values give us our identity, or it feeds our sense of self. So this Saturn-Sun combination, though more intensely felt in February, it's still there at the beginning of March. But it does move on, because by the middle of March, the sun moves into Aquarius. It moves on anyway further into the first week of March, and then Saturn can then reappear. And especially, like I say, by the time the sun moves on into Pisces, Saturn then is left behind in Aquarius. So it really gets you to focus and build on what you value, and that self-worth and self-value, you know, and the things that you value also, literally your finances as well. I mean, it's not just about finances, obviously, it's about anything that you value beyond finances, but it is practically about you building wealth, about building a net, you know, assets and all of that, security. All of those things are second house. And that's an ongoing theme for many, years and for the next couple of years at least. But at the same time, there is an aspect now on the fourth sign. So Saturn in the second sign aspects the fourth sign, where Rahu and Uranus and Venus will move in as well by mid-March. And this is, and I'll show you the new moon as well on the 21st. Here's the new moon. So I'll bring it to the 22nd, but it is the 21st. It's at 6 degrees of Pisces. And the new moon and all of these planets here with Mercury and Jupiter and Neptune and the sun moon are all hemmed in between, let me bring it back to your rising sign, Capricorn, are all hemmed in between Saturn in Aquarius and Rahu in Aries. So this is, again, your second sign of values and worth and money, and fourth sign of home. So family and home life, obviously, and finances and all of that, and happiness and self-worth, and, you know, envisioning something else around this is important, because as all of these planets and the new moon in Pisces gather, and all of these planets are hemmed in between Saturn and Rahu, it's getting you to focus on what it is you want. Third house new moon in Pisces is about being open to what it is that you want personally. The third house is very much about what I want. And although all Capricorns have this thing within them that they have this give and take, because the third ruler, Jupiter, rules Pisces and the 12th sign of sacrifice, there's always this give and take that Capricorns have because of that. And it makes them so self or service orientated. So it can't be just about what you want. It's about what, maybe you have to sacrifice to get what you want, for example. So this new moon, though, in Pisces, hemmed in between Saturn and Rahu, is asking you to look at what it is you want with the changes that are happening in your finances, your family, and in your home life, and in possibly even where you're living. Because Rahu in the fourth house can really kind of change that, of course, and Rahu Uranus can certainly change that. So this is a time now to think about all of these changes that are happening, and I guess the changes that are forced to happen at this point, and that's what Rahu and Saturn can show. Things that just had to change and have changed, and the indication now of this new moon, and especially on this new moon on March 21st, and for the following year, in fact, because it's a new lunar year, all of this indicates this real need to focus on what it is you want and how you can communicate that, and being open to, potential and possibility. And so the thing here is that, of course, Jupiter is present with the new moon, but so is Mercury. So it's not quite clear about the details, right? There's no clarity necessarily around the details so much, but there is this sense of knowing on a deeper level what it is you want, or the potential is there at least for you to know what it is. So that's the new moon on the 21st. It's an important time to really focus on that and to really tune into that knowing, I would say. At the same time, we have Mars in March. By the 12th of March, it moves into Gemini and out of Taurus, where it's been for many months, nearly 7 months. And then it clears the shadow phase, the point at which it began to move backwards, by the 17th of March. So Mars is now moving on into new territory, and you can therefore move on in terms of the plans that you've been going over and over again in the fifth sign, and now working out and implementing how to plan it all out in the sixth sign. Mars is well placed in the sixth in order to just do what needs to be done and plan what needs to be planned. It can sort of obviously get a bit ruffled because Mars in Gemini is a bit too much of planning and not too much of action. And so there might be some frustration here that you might feel. It might impact you in that way, especially if you're in a Mars cycle. But if you think about Mars and Gemini and its ruler Mercury, Mercury is all about thinking about things, about planning things and scheduling things, yes. But Mars just wants to do it, and yesterday. So when you put Mars and Gemini in the sixth, there could be some angst here. There could be some frustration here about it not happening quickly enough. But at least it's moving on into new territory and you can plan ahead. That's the key thing here. And especially by the end of March, by the 31st, Mercury moves into Aries. So therefore they exchange signs. So there's definitely more cooperation that can happen. Therefore, there might be some challenge to overcome for sure. But there's definitely cooperation, and that therefore shows there's more change happening. Again, further indicates change happening in your home life. And that's from the end of March. There's one last thing I want to point out, which is not an obvious thing at all. And that is the formation of the nodes lining up in a square to Pluto. So Pluto is going to reach 6 degrees by the summer and will station, stop moving at 6 degrees, move backwards. And the North Node and South Node, Rahu Ketu, are going to reach 6 degrees also and then move backwards. So basically, for the whole summer, the nodes and Pluto are in a square. And this is potentially conflicted in the world, but for you personally, there's a way of channeling this so that you can make the most of it and the changes that it's indicating in these movable signs and in these key areas of your life. It shows again more change, and more change specifically around your home life, which will impact your work life and you personally and your relationships also. But it's not obvious at all because Pluto is not seen. It's your subconscious, and the nodes are your shadow. They're shadow planets, so they're not your conscious being that is doing this, but subconsciously, deeply within yourself, there's a key shift, a key kind of turning of the wheel, as it were, that's going on. And it's making these changes happen ultimately in your world and in your life in a more, like I said, in these key areas of your life, in yourself, your first house, your fourth house, your home life, your seventh house, your relationship, your 10th house, your career. So key changes happening here over the whole summer months. So I just wanted to point that out to you as well, Capricorn. I hope that's been of help. As always, I wish you the very best for the month ahead. And until next time. For Aquarius rising and or moon sign for March 2023, Aquarius, your ruler Saturn has now settled into your sign. And so therefore it's about you focusing on yourself and the changes that need to be made, really the reformation that has to occur here in how you express yourself and how you relate and how you work, in who you are. These are big changes that are happening not just now, but for the next couple of years with Saturn's transit in your sign. So this is a key shift moving forward now. And the fact that the sun has moved in here for the last couple of weeks of February, the first 2 weeks of March, could show maybe some conflict going on there, maybe even with your partner, the seventh lord, Leo. Sun Saturn can be a bit of a challenge because therefore Saturn, your ruler, is combust. It's not visible. So it can make you maybe feel burnt out in a way. But at the same time, there's an inner strength that this combustion can show. And so it's important to tap into that without trying to find all the answers out there in the world out there. You might not be able to see them clearly out there. But when you look within yourself, you can be more clear about what needs to happen at this point. So oftentimes this Sun-Saturn configuration is often referred to as like an identity crisis even. So that could be something that, you could, identify with. But again, it's a temporary thing because the sun is going to move on by the middle of March. And I'm going to show you that now. So by the middle of March, we have the sun move into, let me just bring it back to your sign, Pisces. And this is an important indication moving forward because all the planets in Pisces now, the sun and moon, so the new moon on the 21st, Mercury's going to move in is here as well on the 16th of March. Jupiter is still here. Neptune has already moved in here. So there's a lot of activity going on in your second sign. And this new moon in your second in Pisces on the 21st is an important new beginning, not just for March, but actually for the year ahead. It's a new lunar year. So the things that are happening now on the 21st of March have a big imprint on the year ahead for you. So the second sign, new moon, Pisces, and a new moon in Pisces is always your second sign, is very much about what it is that you value. Family, values, speech, vision, not just like outer vision, but an inner vision, a clarity about, seeing something that's important to you, that sustains you. This is a key indication for this new moon on the 21st of March and for the year ahead. You'll see here that Saturn is on one side of all of these planets gathered in Pisces, and Rahu, your other ruler, is in your third sign with Saturn aspecting or looking at Rahu. So there's a hemming in effect that's going on here on your second sign, on your speech, on your vision, on your clarity around what's important to you moving forward. So it might not be clear, especially with Mercury here, about the details about that vision that you have for something that you want to do that makes it feel like it's important to you, but you might not be clear about it. But what it could do is it give you a focus, it give you a container for it. So Saturn on the one side, Rahu on the other, and especially Saturn's aspect on Rahu in your third sign, getting you to be clear about what's important to you and how you can go about communicating that. So whether it's through some sort of actual communication, like verbally or written or whatever it is, or whether it's through communicating in some sort of artistic form, which is the third sign, it's about getting clear about what's important to you so that you can be clear on how you communicate that. And so it doesn't mean that you'll have worked all of this out from the get-go, but it does mean that these things are important for you to work out for the coming year. Being very clear about how you communicate what is important to you and your vision in essence. So this new moon on the 21st and for the coming year really points to that. Other things that are happening is that Mars, after many months of transiting through your fourth house, kind of stuck in the mud here in terms of some home situation and work, therefore getting stuck because Mars rules your 10th house. This is moving on. So thankfully, Mars now moving into Gemini in your fifth whole sign in a trine to your ruler Saturn and out of an aspect of Rahu is a better situation in terms of your career, in terms of your home life, in terms of some plans that you can now start making with Mars in Gemini. Fifth sign Mars, Gemini, is very much about making plans. And the best use of this Mars is to do just that. Make some plans moving forward. Don't just sit on it and expect it all to come to you. Mars is very much about being proactive and making some plans. And the fifth house is all about the future. So by the time that Mercury moves into Aries on the 31st of March, and I'll show you that here, and I'll talk more about this next month as well, because this is going to be a key signature moving forward. But as soon as Mercury moves into Aries on the 31st of March, that means Mars and Mercury are both exchanging signs, Aries and Gemini. And this is an indication of that you really need to make some effort here. But by making even just a little effort, you're going to be able to plan something here into April. So what March is really saying, Aquarius, is that it's about getting clear about what's important to you, and your vision about what's important to you needs to get clear. It's not necessarily going to be clear from the get-go, but you can get clear about it and then communicate it more effectively and then start planning it in April. That seems to be really, Aquarius, what is essentially happening right now. There is another thing that's essential, but it's not clear at all, and that is that Pluto is coming into a square to the nodes, and it's going to last all summer. So by the time Pluto gets to 6 degrees of Capricorn and the nodes move back to 6 degrees of Aries Libra, this is a conflict in many ways that we're going to more obviously see in the world around us, in things that are changing that seem fated or out of control. The world is going to seem out of control, but individually for you, especially Aquarius, you can take control of this and understand the hidden dynamics here, the subconscious, your blocks, even your shadow self, and the changes that are going to happen that are, again, not necessarily at all clear. You might not be conscious of anything that's happening, but there are deeper hidden changes that are going on with Pluto and the nodes. Pluto is not visible. The nodes are shadows, they're not visible, but they're in this square to each other in your 3rd, 6th, and 12th houses. And therefore, we're going to pull in the 6th house as well. And all of these houses, the 3rd, 6th, 9th, and 12th houses, are all about your past conditioning. And Pluto in your 12th house alone is showing that there needs to be some sort of changing of past conditioning. Rahu in the 3rd in a square, Ketu in the 9th in a square is showing that you have to change the way you think about things and communicate what you are offering. And so again, this is a deeper hidden aspect. I'll talk more about this over the coming months because it's a big deal for the summer of 2023 especially. But for now, I hope that's been of help. As always, I wish you the very best for the month ahead. And until next time. For Pisces rising and or moon sign for March 2023, Pisces, your ruler Jupiter is spending one last full month in the sign Pisces, in your sign. And by the end of April, it will move on into Aries. And so March is therefore very much a transitional time. And the new moon in Pisces in your sign on March 21st, though a new moon, a new beginning, is as much about endings as new beginnings. So in a sense, you have to kind of think about this as an ending phase, a transition phase for you to start something new in April. But because the new moon Pisces, which in the Vedic calendar is always the new lunar year, really the things that are happening around or on the 21st of March have an imprint on the whole year ahead. So I'll show you that now, the new moon, but it's an important time, important reset in your life, a personal reconfiguration, really. And again, the last full month of Jupiter in your sign. Now, although Jupiter in your sign had promised an awful lot, it didn't actually deliver as much as we had hoped, and hope being the operative word here. And that is because, especially, and you can see it here during the new moon itself, it's because of Jupiter in Pisces initially been aspected by Saturn by its third house aspect from Capricorn, and now being hemmed in by Saturn being in Aquarius and Rahu, the North Node, in Aries. So in a way, Jupiter in Pisces wasn't able to completely fly. We can see that in the world in terms of what's, bizarrely happening with the balloon situation, with Chinese balloons and so on. But when you see things like that in the world around us, they are more reflective of what's happening within us. And Jupiter, you might say, in Pisces, especially with Neptune, is like an inflated situation, a balloon situation, whether it's actually inflation in the markets or, just our own inflated sense of idealism or whatever it might be. That cannot really go anywhere right now because Saturn is on one side and Rahu's on the other, and it's stuck. And it's kind of deflating, therefore, as a result. So ultimately, in essence, though there is some inflationary thing going on and kind of a balloon situation, an unrealistic situation, possibly, it's not able to go anywhere right now. And until Jupiter moves on into Aries, it's that kind of stuck feeling, but not being able to go somewhere. At least it's not going back anywhere. It's not going back to the way it was, but it's just not able to move forward in any kind of clear way into the future as yet, anyway. So that's the kind of key thing about March and the new moon on the 21st, is that it's at least not going back. It's not necessarily going forward in any way clearly, because Mercury here as well is not clear about the details at all, but at least it's not going back. So Saturn on the one side in your 12th sign is about relinquishing something, ending something, and getting over something, removing something from the past conditioning also even. And its aspect on your second sign, where Rahu is asking you to get very clear about your vision for the future. Because second sign is very much about vision, like an inner vision more than anything else. And it's also about the external things like family dynamics and, money and all of these things and values and self-worth. But really, it's essentially, what is it that sustains you? What, do you see? When you look at your life, what do you see in the future? And that's an important indication moving forward. And this North Node, of course, right now is shaking all of that up. But Jupiter will enter here by the end of April and really get you to really focus on that moving forward. First, though, before any of that, before you get clear about your vision, about your future, you have to get clear about what you stand for as an individual. And that's the new moon in Pisces. And although Saturn and Rahu here are getting you to focus on what you need to let go of in order for you to move forward, whether it's in practical financial terms, whether it's in a family dynamic, whatever it might be in that sense, there's an inner journey you're going on here in terms of envisioning your future, basically. But for you to, again, see that clearly, you have to get clear about who you are. And that's what this new moon in Pisces is all about. And you can look at this hemming in of all these planets and this new moon on March 21st of Saturn Rahu as an ability. Also, hemming in is another way of saying focusing, to get you to focus on yourself and to really focus. The more you can focus and get clear about what it is that's meaningful and purposeful to you and who you are, then everything else can slip by the wayside, and everything else maybe should slip by the wayside, so you can get more clear and focused on what's important to you moving forward. And then when you're clear about that, then you can plan that in the future. But you can't plan anything in the future if you can't get clear about it now, because everything happens now. And that's the key thing about the first sign, Pisces, and the new moon in Pisces. It's about slipping in between the gap, in a way, between all of that past and future stuff. What no longer is Saturn, what could be Rahu. The only way you can actually get clear about anything is actually to become present in the now. And that's what this new moon on the 21st is screaming at you, really. It's a very silent scream within you, but it's there. It's screaming at you. So that's the new moon. The other thing that's happening is that Mars is moving on after many, many months in Taurus in your third sign, though conducive to the third sign about, getting what you want. In Taurus, it had to negotiate way too much than it liked. So Mars is a part of you that doesn't like to negotiate. It's just like the 2-year-old part of you that likes to stomp its feet and get what it wants, like yesterday. But in Taurus, it just has to negotiate to get whatever it wants. So that's tricky balance, when you have Mars in the third in Taurus. Now it's moving on into Gemini, and by the 12th of March, and then by the 17th of March, it moves beyond the point it moved backwards last year. So at least things are moving on now. It's in your fourth sign. So there's this kind of stomping your feet in terms of what I want, in terms of what will make me happy, perhaps. And maybe getting clear about that and planning ahead. And by the end of April, if I show you, or by the end of March, pardon me, the 31st of March, we have Mercury enter. Let me just show you this now. We have Mercury enter Aries and exchange signs with Mars in Gemini. And so this is a helpful indication because, well, Mercury, first of all, is no longer in Pisces and lost. So you're not being very clear about the details. It's then exchanging with Mars in the fourth. Second and fourth exchange is seen as a positive exchange for you, Pisces. I'll talk more about this in April. But moving forward, I'm mentioning it now because if you're in any way confused about the details in March, in April, there's a sense of, moving the plan on and getting clear about this. Second and fourth house exchange is seen as a positive one in terms of, getting clear about that and things that make you happy, whether it's finances, home life, those are the two key things that you'll be negotiating during April, finances and home. But again, ultimately, it's all about making plans and moving forward. That's Mars and doing it in the present. Remember that the key indications of the first and the fourth are about your direction in life clearly mapped out in the present. It's not this kind of elusive sort of future orientated thing that's not clear. And it's not the past that is no longer. It's present time awareness and focusing on what is. And that's another thing that Mars in Gemini in the fourth can offer you. The last thing I want to mention, it's a big thing moving forward. I'll talk more about it in the coming months, is that Pluto is moving into a square to the nodes. Pluto will reach 6 degrees of Capricorn, sidereal Capricorn, while the nodes are in Aries and Libra. And they come into a square and they stay in a square all summer because then they start all moving retrograde. So Pluto moves retrograde in the summer and the nodes always move retrograde. So they'll be in this tight square to each other all summer. And so because this is happening in your second, eighth, and 11th houses, which is very much about you planning your future, there's some shift that's going on within you in terms of you looking at that in a different way and looking at that inner self, that deeper hidden part of yourself, that subconscious self, as it were, with Pluto, and then your shadow self with the nodes, and being open to the changes that are going on deep within you instead of just looking at the changes that are happening in the world around you, whether it's through finances, whether it's through, any of those practical things like earnings and finances and bank balance and all of those, or family dynamics and friendships and things like that, or values and ambitions. All of these things are more obvious out there. But instead of doing that, you could also look within yourself at the key changes that are happening in your own self and deeper within yourself and removing those blocks to getting clear about what it is that you want in the first place, what it is that you would love actually to do. And so these hidden aspects, the Pluto and the nodes and the conflict that can be there between them in a square is a potential also. The conflict that's kind of dredged up is also an opportunity to see the blocks. And when you see the blocks, then you can remove them, in other words. And then you can get clear about what is standing in your way in you getting what you want. And carving out that future that you want for yourself. So Pisces, I hope that's been of help. As always, I wish you the very best for the month ahead. And until next time.